What time is it? Let me check my watch. Oh, it's bone o'clock. In olden days, a glimpse of femur was only for morbid dreamers, but you're not alone. Bring anything bones. Two goofy gals with deathly interest go on a skeleton inquest in your headphones. Anything bones.
Hello and welcome to Anything Bones. I'm Sophie Schwartz.
And I'm Caitlin Hart, and it's 1,000 degrees in hell.
Yeah, we happen to be coming to you live from hell. The demons are very nice, but the heat is intolerable.
Yeah, I don't live in Seattle because I like the heat. You know what I mean?
No.
I want to point out that as a Pacific Northwesterner, born and bred, I feel like I'm just a weakling when it comes to extreme weather of any kind. Heat or snow, I just can't figure it out. So, and nobody can. I mean,
I'm from California. I have no experience with any. I'm from the top of California, so it's not even that hot, at all.
Yeah. Not like this. In case anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, the Pacific Northwest is having a heat wave. We're kind of at the end of it, but I think at its hottest, it got up to 111 degrees, 118 degrees in some places of Washington. It was nuts.
It was freakish, and I'm not enjoying it. I have been following hot weather people's advice by putting socks and bandanas in the freezer to adorn myself with. And I was in a rehearsal for, I wrote a piece for The Ugly Radio, check them out. And I was listening to some actors read it, and I had to very casually peel off one of these wet socks from my bare thigh, just kind of plop it down, and I'm like, I'm a writer.
Well, I assume this was over the internet.
It was a Zoom meeting.
So probably no one noticed.
The sock may have made its way into frame.
Anyway, for those of you not interested in heatwave content, just quit listening right now.
Well, I do want to shout out all of the goths, the gothic boneheads, the ones who do wear black on a semi-regular basis. Please stay hydrated. I have been suffering. So shout out to all the sweaty goths.
Yes.
If you would like to send us a picture at Anything Bones Podcast Instagram of you being a sweaty goth, we will happily post that on the story.
I like #sweatygoth, and yeah, that's the hashtag of the summer for me.
Yeah, #sweatygoth. Get it.
Anyway, what else has been going on? What's up?
Well, as you know, my dad was in town.
Oh, yeah. I know that because I met him.
Yeah. We got to have a lovely dinner with my father.
It was like meeting the parents, but the stakes were so low.
Well, and he is a Anything Bones devotee, so he was... I hope he wasn't anxious to meet you. I feel like he has said that he feels as though he knows you, you know?
Yeah. It was an easy conversation. It was really fun, and we had a great dinner. And so in that spirit, we actually have a funny little episode for you today where our topics were inspired by our parents' choices.
Yeah, our parents, my dad, your parents, picked a topic for each of us or requested us talk about something. Requested or suggested. In my dad's case, requested.
Well,
as soon as Caitlin sat down, he was like, I would like to talk about some topic ideas.
Yeah, it was a business meeting overall, but I loved it.
Well, you know the Schwartzes, we're all business.
Do you want to go first? Do you want to tell the people what Seth wanted to hear about?
Sure, I certainly will. And throughout all of this, I would like you to picture my sweet papa. He is a Jewish man in his 60s. He's rocking it. He loves the khaki shorts. He loves the socks with sandals. You know, your classical kind of a little bit granola-y lawyer dad. And keep that in mind while you listen to the topic requested by him. Okay, so I'll do some sources right off here at the top just to get them over with. We have the first Wikipedia article, an article from Vice, an article from The Sun, an article from The Mirror, an article from Mexico News Daily, and another article from Wikipedia.
Classic. Wikipedia is the MVP.
Yes, it is. It's our dearest friend, along with our BFF Find a Grave, who I should also shout out. I didn't take any information directly from them, but I did use Find a Grave to literally find graves.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it does exactly what it's called, so I don't know what more you could want.
So let's get into my fucking bone topic. Stop, as my dad would say, stop fiddle fucking around. So Jardines Del Humaya is a cemetery outside of the city of Caloocan in the Mexican state of Sinaloa, established in 1969. So Sinaloa might be a name, a place that rings some bells for you. Do you associate it with anything?
Sorry, no. I don't know it. I'm sorry.
Well,
am I supposed to?
No, other people might associate it with its drug-related activity.
Oh!
And there's a lot of cartel-related violence that happens in that state. And this cemetery that I talked about, Jardines Del Humaya, has a bit of notoriety for its mausoleums built for deceased cartel members.
Okay.
They are lavish and unique, and some of them resemble real houses. And the opulence that is present in this cemetery is kind of a direct reflection of the extravagant, extreme lives of these cartel leaders and members who are buried here in these absolutely buck wild mausoleums.
When your dad started describing it to me, I feel like we got to the point where I was like, I have to see a picture of this. And then we all realized at the same time, like, no, you can't. Like, I can't see pictures. I need to see them when we do this podcast, and I can't wait for pictures.
Yeah, I will definitely be sending you some pictures. Let me actually do that right now.
Fuck yeah. Oh, wow. Oh my God. It's like modern.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about them, is that they're in a bunch of different styles.
Yeah, this is really cool.
Let me try to send you the other one. Do you want to describe the first picture?
So it's like the mausoleum is just square, but it's got like it just looks very modern. I can't quite tell if it's just like glass detail up top or if there's a little balcony.
That is a little balcony.
Yes! I love a little balcony on a mausoleum. There are glass doors looking in, and you can see a picture, I'm assuming, of the deceased, and I might be seeing an urn. And I love the brightly lit cross above the door as well. It's very modern, but yeah, you're right. It does look like a little house.
Yeah, and then I just sent you a second picture.
Yeah, so this looks like a little street or like a road. Oh, I mean, I guess it's part of the cemetery, but there's just little houses on either side. And there's a car going down the road. It reminds me of, this is weird, but, like Universal, when you go on the back lot. This looks like a movie set, like tiny houses, and you just like drive down the middle of them. And I don't know, it's just really cool.
Yeah, it kind of also reminded me of the New Orleans kind of above ground crypts.
Definitely.
So in this cemetery, they have about 50 construction workers that are kind of employed daily to work on these amazing mausoleums for people. And they're called narcotumbas, which means narco tombs.
Nice.
Which, as we say on this podcast, call it what it is.
Please be specific. Thank you.
Yeah, and these tombs have been very much compared almost to like the ancient Egyptian pharaohs, with the amount of almost like grave goods and decoration put into a resting place.
Yeah, there's definitely a hint of that for sure. Wanting to have an opulence or place where people can come to remember you and think about you. And it's also aesthetically beautiful, and like clearly the point is for people to hang out in there and come and be with their loved ones.
Yeah, that's very much a part of it, that these tombs are as much for the deceased as they are for the living. And they're pretty expensive, as one might imagine. And the guys who make them I liked this little detail from the Vice article that these construction workers are paid very well, and many of them drive luxury cars. So they're like, what do? I build tombs for drug lords.
Awesome. Well, and these are so cool. Like, I wonder if they're also doing like maintenance and upkeep of the existing tombs as well as like building new ones.
I think that's some people's jobs, but I think this was just focusing mainly on the people whose job it is to build these specific types of tombs.
Holy shit, that's so crazy.
Yeah, that's a job.
Yeah.
We'll get into whether or not it's a safe job for anyone to have.
Oh my God, let's go.
So just covering a little bit about the cost of these tombs, some can cost up to 6 million pesos or over 300,000 US, which is a lot to spend on a gravesite. So some crypts look a lot like chapels, like you saw, with white columns and angels and like stained glass. Others have an awesome statue of the big man, Jesus himself, perched on the roof. So some look like these modern little apartments, like I showed you, where the neon cross is kind of the most like glaring sign that it is a tomb. They have glass doors and balconies. They have whole second floors, living rooms with couches, bedrooms, waiting and living rooms, bathrooms, barbecues, air conditioning, Wi-Fi, and many have CCTV.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I get the CCTV. I don't get the bedroom myself because I don't know that I could sleep in the cemetery. I don't know.
I was going to save this for later, but I will mention it now, that this is a popular party spot. And sometimes friends of the deceased will come and, you know, they'll be drinking in the cemetery and they'll be like to their girlfriend, like, hey, do you want a doink in so-and-so's too?
Yeah, okay. I don't know how I feel about that. I have to process.
I wasn't a fan. That don't work on me for future reference.
Yeah, me neither, I think.
Yeah. So a lot of these crypts, as you saw, have really large portraits of the deceased, and a lot of them are young men in their 20s and 30s, and a lot of these tombs don't have names directly on them. And that's kind of for safety, because they don't want people either coming and defacing the tomb if there's, you know, some sort of beef between cartels. And they also don't want anyone who may be visiting the tomb to be harmed, you know, because of the actions of somebody else, you know?
Yeah, I did notice that I couldn't see a name anywhere on the pictures you sent me.
Yeah, that's kind of, like I said, to protect people, because, you know, there's some serious stuff going down, which we'll talk about here in a moment. So part of the reason why these tombs are so extravagant is that it comes from the Mexican culture of commemorating the dead by celebrating their life. And that's kind of what this is a translation of. You know, parties with live music that last for days are often commonplace for birthdays and anniversaries and Day of the Dead. They will come to, you know, the place where the person is entombed and party with them and remember their life and decorate their tomb. There's even people who are like local event planners that will get hired to come and decorate tombs. I said, planners offer to decorate tombs and coordinate truly buck-wild gatherings for the average cost of 35,000 pesos, which is like $3,000 US.
Damn, that's a big party.
Well, it includes lighting, landscaping, altars, and customized themes.
Oh yeah, you gotta have a theme.
Yeah, but like we were just kind of talking about, it's not all fun and games at the Drug Lord Cemetery.
Wow, who'd have thought?
So in one of these articles, there's an interview with one of the cemetery watchmen. I believe this is from the Mexico News Today article. And he says that visitors are usually respectful, but there's always kind of a threat of danger. And he tells this story about when hitmen arrived at a burial service to get revenge on the family of the deceased. And the watchman had apparently agreed to help with this burial service at the grave site because, you know, they were short-staffed, and he was, you know, it's his job to help people get to their final resting place. Well, to guard the people, but this guy believes in a good death, I think. And they were like lowering the coffin into the ground, and then he heard a woman say, quote, "All men should run." And then before he knew it, a group of armed men had appeared kind of out of nowhere and were forcing him like face down on the ground.
Whoa.
And yeah, and the watchman said, quote, "We just came to perform the burial services for this man. Quote, we are workers here. We don't know the sorts of problems you guys had." And then the guy replied to him, quote, "I told you to lie down, old cabron." And then the hitman and his crew ended up abducting 8 people who are still missing.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And then there was another incident that ended up making some more like international headlines in 2010. A beheaded body was found near the tomb of one of these extremely notorious drug lords. And at the opposite end of the cemetery, close to the mausoleum of a different extremely important drug lord figure, was the victim's head.
Oh.
And it had a little flower tucked behind its ear.
Oh my God, that is so creepy.
How creepy is that? My papa suggested this topic.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know if he knew about the flower tucked behind the beheaded person's head. But...
My sweet papa is listening to this.
Cover your ears, papa.
Cover your ears, Seth.
So, did they ever solve that one? No.
I do not believe so. I couldn't find a lot more about that.
That is really fucked up.
Yeah, it is. It is truly fucked up. Let's do a couple of spotlights on some people who are buried here, just for shits and giggles.
Let's change the vibe a little bit.
I don't know if that'll happen. So, first up on my virtual tour of this cemetery for you is Armando Carrillo Fuentes, and he was part of the Juarez cartel, and he was nicknamed Lord of the Skies.
Oh.
Because he liked to transport cocaine and stuff on giant airplanes.
Yeah, I mean, that's convenient. Better than on land.
Yeah. He died in July of 1997 in a Mexican hospital after undergoing extensive plastic surgery to change his appearance.
Oh, God. Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, well, in his final days, he was being tracked by both Mexican and United States authorities. And his mausoleum costs about, this is done in pounds, 350,000 pounds. And I'll shoot you a picture of that right now.
Please.
So this is the guy and his tomb.
Oh, wow. It's very cool. It's like, this is not modern at all. This is like, this reminds me of our college. It's just like brick, beautiful roofing and tiers on the roof. I don't know what that is. The ironwork archway thingy to the left of the door, but it's really cool.
Yeah, I like this one. It's kind of in an older style. Reminds me, like of a little castle. Mm-hmm. So just a couple more facts about this guy. He was one of the most powerful cocaine traffickers in Mexico, and he was able to amass a personal fortune of about 25 billion with a B.
Nice. Damn.
With a B.
Jesus Christ.
So there's a lot of rumors that this guy did not actually die during his plastic surgery that he was having to hide from the cops, but that he killed one of his henchmen, and that's who's buried in this tomb, and that the other guy is just off somewhere living his life.
It's a good story. I don't know.
It'd be pretty cool, but the U.S. government is very convinced that he's dead, so.
Okay, all right.
And I usually I tend to take their word about that kind of stuff. Let's see, who is up next? Yes, this one. Okay, so at first when I was researching this person, I could only find her husband's name. So fuck him. He's a really bad dude, and her name needs to be said. Her name is Guadalupe Lea Serrano, and her husband is Hector Luis Palma Salazar, and he's a former drug lord, drug trafficker. He is in jail. So a little background about Hector Luis Palma Salazar, because he is the drug lord. After the brutal murder of his young family was ordered by rival cartel members, he did a string of revenge crimes to avenge his lost ones, and he was arrested in 1995, extradited to the United States, then sent back to Mexico to face charges for double homicide. So while all this is happening, this guy Cavell, who is from a rival cartel, forces Guadalupe, the wife of this powerful drug lord, to withdraw $7 million from a bank account in San Francisco, and then decapitated her and shipped her head via courier service back to her husband.
Jesus Christ.
And her two young children, Jesus and Natalie, were taken to Venezuela and thrown off of a bridge.
What?
Yes.
Oh my God. Oh God, that's awful. Jesus Christ.
So she is buried in this cemetery, and her tomb has a spiral staircase, is air conditioned, and has a 360-degree view of the surrounding hills and Wi-Fi.
Okay.
And supposedly, Palma, the husband, keeps it smelling like his murdered wife's favorite perfume. Dun, dun, dun.
From jail, he does this?
Yeah, I don't know how.
Okay.
He's got a lot of lackeys. All right, so the next person I want to talk about is Ignacio Nacho Cornell, who has a gold-plated casket, apparently. He's buried in this cemetery. He was a notorious drug trafficker, and he was killed in July of 2010 during a shootout with the Mexican army. During a raid, he killed a soldier and wounded another. And in the raid of his home, they found jewelry, luxury watches, guns, 2 hand grenades, 3 vehicles, and $7 million in cash. So his partner in crime is also buried in this cemetery, and his name is Arturo El Pollo Guzman. He is the chicken, and he is the brother of the notorious cartel chief Joaquin El Chapo Guzman.
Oh, yeah?
I know that sounds familiar to you.
I know who that is.
Mm-hmm. And the inside of his mausoleum is decorated with a collection of scale model cars, horse figurines, hats, and a cap that reads, "I love Papa."
Oh my God. So he just is buried among like his favorite things?
Yeah.
Seems like.
Yeah, there's a picture I'll send for you for the Instagram, but there's just a huge collage on the wall of just pictures of him and I think his kids.
And did he like horses? Like,
I guess.
What's
the
with
model
the horses?
Cars and horses. It's just a shit that he liked.
Yeah, yeah.
And kind of again, as we said, it's a popular spot for parties. A lot of the cartel members will come to party with their dead friends. And like I said, maybe even, have a midnight rendezvous in one of these really nice... I was thinking about this while I was doing research. I was like, half of me was like, Seattle is so bad right now, I would chill in a drug lord's air-conditioned tomb. Take me to the drug lord's air-conditioned tomb. It has Wi-Fi.
Yeah, but Seattle's gonna be back to a normal temperature soon. It's not worth it.
No need to travel all the way to Mexico for air conditioning.
No.
Sort of to sum up, these tombs are incredibly grand and detailed, and, the people that are buried in them are interesting figures who, every time you read about someone's tomb, sometimes the context slips away for me, and I'm like, oh, that's sad, and then I'm like, no! They're murderers.
It's complicated. It's definitely a complicated place, a complicated topic. It's tricky because, of course, I really don't think that many people deserve to die for things, so I don't think that these people deserved the deaths that they got. It's also complicated, though, because it sounds like a lot of them have done bad things. I don't know. I'm just rambling.
They have done bad things, and it kind of sears me because I was thinking about this, and a mention was made in an article that, these people have these, drug lords. I was trying to think of a better name for them, a more professional sounding name, but they're cartel leaders. They have ordered the deaths or directly killed so many people who didn't get a burial, who didn't get an extravagant funeral or a mausoleum with fucking Wi-Fi and their wife's perfume smell. Like, those people didn't get even a cross in the ground. So, who are you to get a mausoleum made of rare stone and a hat that says I love Papa? It's like you said, it's an extremely, it's polarizing within itself, Great topic suggestion, Father.
Thank you, Seth, for making us think on this hot, hot day.
Yeah, thanks for making me use my brain on the day it's boiling.
As your story was coming to a close, a bead of sweat just came down the side of my neck, and I was just like, oh, I'm listening, but God damn it, it's hot.
Yeah, and we can't have our fans on because they'll make sound.
Don't feel bad for us, though.
No. We're, not all heroes wear capes.
Hold on, I need a sip of water.
Anything goes.
All right. So my topic came to me via a text from my mom, and I believe she and my dad were watching Rick Steves on TV, the travel guy. He travels around. Yeah. I don't know. He's one of those. I guess he was talking about this place on his show, and they thought of me. So I'm going to take you to a place where there are no coffins, but it is a cemetery. I'm going to take you to the Catacombe de Cappuccini, aka the Catacombs of the Capuchins. I don't know if I'm saying this right. This is in Palermo, Sicily, which is in southern Italy.
Ooh.
So, we've all been to a cemetery. Dead people are not, left out for the living to see. I personally don't want this to be what happens to my body. I'd like to be cremated. But
at least in our Western culture, they're not.
Yes. But this This place is a rare exception to that. I like this quote: "Nothing stands between the living and dead except maybe a rope with a sign asking visitors to be respectful." So
What?
I know. My sources for this are Atlas Obscura, which shout out to them as well. They do good work. The website for the catacombs themselves, PalermoCatacombs.com, and of course Wikipedia, obviously. So there are about 8,000 bodies in the catacombs, and this is as of 2011, so who knows, and 1,252 mummies.
Hey, that ain't bad.
That's cool. So
that's more mummies than I have.
Yeah. How did we get here? What's going on? So in 1534, the Capuchin friars were established in Palermo at a place called the Church of Santa Maria della Paz, or Pace. I can't speak Italian, we know this. It's also called the Lady of Peace. So, of course, everybody knows that they're going to die at some point, so they did have a cemetery for these friars, but they were in this mass grave that, quote, opened like a tank under the altar of St. Anne. And I don't know what the fuck that means, but it sounds awful.
May I say what I feel like it means?
Please.
That there was like a holding place for like dead monks under the altar, and they would just kind of open up a trapdoor and be like, go chill with your brothers.
Yeah, not
They'll
very
put them
dignified.
in a bone hole.
In a bone hole, exactly.
I mean, I don't know. There's not a lot of instances where people being mass graved are willing to that.
Yeah, okay.
But maybe they were?
You know, I mean, they were friars. They didn't, I don't know, maybe this is a stretch, but my guess is they didn't really care what happened to their bodies because they were going to heaven, to the afterlife. You know what I mean?
They were going to hang with my big man.
Yeah,
Jesus.
So whatever. It doesn't, their bodies don't matter at that point because they're in heaven. And they didn't do this for that long. So in 1597...
The bone hole wasn't in operation very long.
Well, like 60 years. So, kind of a while, but they figured it out in the end. So they're like,
that's a couple of monks.
Yeah, it's 1597. They're like, there's not enough room for our people in here. So they start.
I cannot squeeze one more monk in this hole.
Please, don't make me. So they start excavations, and they're creating a cemetery behind the main altar using the existence of ancient caves. So we've got ancient caves, we've got a cemetery. Let's put those two together and we've got an ancient cave cemetery.
We don't give enough credit to the Italians.
The Italians, they know how to do spooky.
They do. They truly do. Like, if you haven't listened to our pilot, I talked about a cemetery in Venice. That's spooky as hell. The Italians, they know how to do it.
So it takes them about 2 years to create this new cemetery. And they are like, okay, let's get our boys and let's get them out of the hole and put them in the new cemetery.
It's monk exhumation day. Are you excited? I brought my own shovel. Ooh, I found a femur in the bone hole.
Whose femur is this, you silly boy? No, actually,
that's Francis.
Actually, they found something completely the opposite of just like pieces of bone. They found 45 friars that were naturally mummified and like perfectly preserved.
Oh my god, the bone hole!
The bone hole did them right because their faces were like still recognizable. So everybody thinks this is an act of God, something divine. So of course they're not going to bury these divine corpses. They decide to display them and put their bodies, in niches along the walls in the cemetery's corridors. Because remember, we're in cave land right now. So we've just got a cave full of bodies on display in their clothes and just like hanging out.
This is wild to me because now I'm thinking they've just made the bone hole bigger. They've just realized that the bone hole worked. And now they're just setting up a more organized bone hole.
Well, of course they are. They are going to get more bodies in the bone hole.
Mummification is so interesting to me because it can like occur anywhere that like the body is like not going to be exposed to like a lot of oxygen and is able to kind of like be preserved. And it's so cool that it can happen, you know, in the deserts of Egypt, but also in the deep caves of Italy, you know, in the high mountains of Chile. It's just cool.
Yeah. It connects us all of our cultures.
Yeah.
So the first body that they put in our newly created, we're going to call it a catacomb now. It's not really just a cemetery anymore.
Is bone hole disrespectful?
I think bone hole might be disrespectful. I think an Italian would hear that and go, no.
I hear that and go,
I was like, should we call this episode something to do with the bone hole? And then I was like, no, that's disgusting. Nobody would listen.
I don't know. I'll challenge you on that later.
So our first body in the catacombs is Father Silvestro de Gubbio. And he is in a simple brown robe and headdress. And he's clutching a sign commemorating the event, which was in 1599.
Hell yeah.
It says...
What is this? Yeah. Tell me what the sign says.
It says 16 Ottobre, which I'm guessing is the 16th of October, but I don't speak Italian.
As we've covered.
Yes. Okay, so all of these
Wait,
bodies...
is that all it says?
Yeah, it's just a sign that commemorates the date that they started putting bodies in there.
It doesn't say hello and welcome to the bone hole. Doesn't say you must be this tall to go in the bone hole.
No.
It doesn't say line starts here for the bone hole. No food or drink in the
Disneyland.
Bone hole. No
This
chewing
is
gum
a
in the bone
dignified
hole.
catacomb in Sicily, Italy.
I'm sorry. No smoking in the bone hole. I'm sorry.
We should not smoke in there.
I would love to smoke in there.
So the news of these incredibly intact bodies obviously like takes the town by storm, and everybody's like, yes, I want to be in that bone hole.
Yeah.
So of course they were kind of stingy at first, and they were like, this is only for friars, and then
Typical.
Yeah, and then it was like more and more by the time we hit 1783, they're like, anybody can fucking be buried here as long as they can pay for it.
Nice.
Yeah. So
that's the church I know.
Yeah. So then, of course, we're going to have to expand some more. We're going to have to get more corridors in our catacomb. And I like this quote, and what was the private cemetery of the friars became a sort of museum of death.
Wow, we love that.
I know, I want to go here so badly.
Me too.
So these corridors that I mentioned are themed. This is the best part. So there's a room for religious figures, of course, a room for professionals like doctors, and a room for women, virgins, and infants.
Wow. That's
I don't know if they're all in the same corridor or all in different. I don't know. It's just they're separated. They're separate from the rest.
I'm not big on it.
Well, I don't really like how obsessed religion can sometimes be with sex and virginity and stuff, you know, like, and purity. I just don't like that. Yeah, but it's just a little creepy to me how much importance our society puts on virginity, and it's gross. So some bodies are in poses. There are apparently 2 children sitting together in a rocking chair, which sounds really cute. I don't have a picture of that, unfortunately.
Sad.
Yeah, but then okay, so I kind of misspoke at the beginning. I said there were no coffins, and it's like, yeah, there are some coffins, but they're see-through. So family members are able to, like, kind of in your cemetery, family members are able to come and actually visit their loved ones in the cemetery. this is a little creepy. They would sometimes come and hold their hand and like pray with their family, which, I mean, I don't know. To each his own. So from the 17th to the 19th century, lots of wealthy citizens of Palermo and like celebrities of the day were able to get in with donations, which would supply the friars' mummification process and, you know, ensure that they would be displayed in this cemetery in the niches like forever. This is so, to me, this is so interesting. It says mummification became a status symbol. So it's like, I'm so rich, you can come visit me even after I'm dead.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense because I bet that it could be an expensive process.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
kind of again, like we were talking about, the importance of status in burial, you know, whether it's, you know, Italian nobles getting mummified or Mexican drug lords with their big mausoleums or pharaohs in their giant pyramids. You know, it's all about status.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, I got chills. So most of the bodies in the catacomb were preserved naturally. Let me say that again. This was natural. This is a process of transformation of the body, which basically is all about dehydration. So you got to get rid of the fluids in the tissues because that's going to stop the growth of bacteria. And it's also going to... Oh, and it stops the process of decay and like decomposition. It makes it a little less fast, I guess. So after the 45 corpses were brought out of the hole, the Capuchin friars did kind of build off of this. You know, they understand. I don't know how long it took them to figure this out. Obviously, it was probably some crazy experimentation, but eventually they have this down where they don't just like leave somebody doesn't just die and they get propped up in the corner. Like it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. I was gonna be like, how natural is it? Like,
yeah. So after they die, bodies are placed in a room called the colatoio, which is like a preparation room. They take out the internal organs and they put straw or bay leaves in, which I guess facilitates the dehydration. They are put in a supine position on these terracotta tubes. So basically their bodies would just drain and that was okay. Like, that's what you want.
Well, that's what's gotta happen. If you want to get all the fluid out of there, you really gotta get all the fluid out of there.
So this preparation room, it is the optimal environment for mummification. It's got dry air, low humidity, and they just like shut it off for like a year and let this process just like happen. And then they bring out the corpses, they wash them with vinegar and dress them, often in clothes that the dead person chose to be, you know, displayed in. These skeletons also remind me of the skeletons that Sam talked about in our third episode. Yeah. The like saints that are display skeletons that are like ornate and like have all these jewels and like beautiful robes on. I just remember that.
Yeah, and I was thinking when you first started talking about how these guys were like perfectly preserved when they opened up the hole, it made me think of like one of the attributes of like sainthood. I don't think it's like a requirement now, but like incorruptibility, which was, you know, the body not decaying, you know, it staying like perfectly preserved. So I wonder if that was, you know, kind of a little bit along the ideology of when they found them. They were like, holy shit, these guys are holy.
Yeah, could be. They did think it was an act of God. So at the end of this sort of process, mummification process, the skin kind of looks like leather and the body is obviously a little bit less heavy and is pretty stiff. But this is not the only way that the Capuchins preserved their bodies. Quote, during periods of epidemics, they bathed the bodies in arsenic. The results were mummies surprisingly intact.
Yes, arsenic is a very good preservant. It's one of the things in the, like, when embalming first came into the U.S. and during the Civil War, they would soak soldiers in arsenic and send them home on the train.
Yes. So like I said, most of the bodies are naturally mummified, but there are some who have received what is called artificial mummification, aka embalming, which is achieved by, of course, an injection of chemicals. So I'm going to get into that in just a little bit. So the catacombs were closed to the public, or not closed to the public, they were closed as in no more bodies can come in 1880. They did, however, allow 2 other bodies to come in since this rule took effect. In 1913, they allowed the body of Giovanni Paterniti, the vice consul of the United States, to be buried there. Not sure why. And the other one is from 1920, is the body of the little girl Rosalia Lombardo, who I think you told me you know about, right?
Yes, when
I told your dad about this.
Yeah, when you told my dad that you were going to do this and I was present, I asked you if this was the same one as where Rosalita was buried. And you said yes. So I love this story.
So it's a sad story, honestly. She was the daughter of a wealthy family, but she was embalmed by, God, local taxidermist Alfredo Salafia.
Alfredo.
He's a taxidermist, but his job was to stuff animals, I guess. But Rosalia's father asked him to make it look like she was, gonna live forever. Really, really sad. Horrible. So Salafia was self-taught in chemistry and taxidermy. He did not complete medical school, but he did dedicate his life to finding out how, interesting or better ways to preserve bodies after the death. And his main accomplishment is Rosalia Lombardo. He died in 1933, so not 13 years after this. And everybody thought that he had taken his embalming recipe with him to the grave. But I guess recently they were able to study some handwritten notes that a relative had. And this was studied by a biological anthropologist named Dario Piombino Mascali. And he was able to figure out what the formula was used to embalm Rosalia. By the way, she is a little girl. I don't think I said she is 2 years old, and I think unfortunately died of the Spanish flu or something. How did I not write that down? That's bad. So what's interesting is that Salafia didn't actually remove her organs. They did x-rays and found that her organs are still intact. He did drain her blood and replace it with a mixture of, quote, formalin, zinc salt, alcohol, salicylic acid, and glycerin. And then I guess he would also do a treatment on the face with paraffin to try and mimic a living face. And I'm going to show you some pictures in a minute, but you can still see today she does look like she's just asleep. It's really creepy. So creepy, in fact, because a lot of people consider her the world's most beautiful mummy, which I think is just nasty. Not a thing we ever need to say.
She's a 2-year-old.
Exactly.
She's a 2-year-old who died.
It's really, we don't need to objectify her, please.
Oh, God, people are so fucked.
Yeah, so she's in a glass coffin with nitrogen in the coffin, I guess, which will prevent any decomposition, which is unlikely because of all the work that this guy Salafia did. So jumping ahead to 2007, the Sicily Mummy Project was created. So there are people that are studying these mummies. It's led by this anthropologist that I mentioned earlier, Dario Piombino Mascali. He works in the Department of Cultural Heritage and Sicilian Identity, and they x-ray the mummies and do CT scans, and that is allowing them to get, data about these people and their age and gender, things like that. I am going to end with this quote from this guy Dario, because I really like it. Quote, "For many years, the subject of death was taboo in Sicily. Now, given the scientific importance of what's emerging with these mummies, people are understanding that in Sicily, death has always been part of life. And for centuries, many Sicilians were using mummification to make sure there was a constant relationship between life and death."
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So, I lied. I'm not quite done yet. I am going to send you a link to the Palermo Catacombs website.
Oh, wow.
And I recommend just clicking on the first picture of Rosalia and then just swiping through. And listeners, I'm going to post the link to these, this slideshow on our show notes. It's a little scary, I will tell you. It's a little frightening, so I don't think I'm going to put these pictures on our main feed. But if you're nasty and you want to take a look, by the way, all of these pictures are from this amazing photographer, Carlo Vanini. And I'm definitely going to link to his Instagram because he takes really amazing pictures.
Yeah, they are a bit scary.
Yeah.
The first one is Rosalita and...
Rosalia. There's no T.
Rosalia. I can't read for shit. But what's another thing that's interesting about her is that people swear, some people do, that she blinks.
Oh, creepy. Like the Mona Lisa, but creepier.
Yeah, but creepier, but it's just like a trick of the light. There's a great photo of, is that the first guy, the guy that's holding the sign that says, "You must be this tall to Catacombe"?
Yeah, yeah. We wish the sign said that. The sign is lame.
The sign is lame. But there are a bunch of other close-ups on mummified faces. My favorite is this guy who almost looks like a pirate.
Yeah, with his mouth open.
Yeah, he's just going, "Oh!" And I'm like, yeah, guy, I feel ya.
Yeah.
You looked terrible. And there's a lot of close-ups of skin and hands. Oh my God, there's a skeleton baby in a bonnet. These are insane. Oh my God. Though there's one, I can't count across which one it is, but it's another one of these, these unset jaws where it looks like the person is screaming, but it's just because no one, tacked their mouth shut when they died.
Like I said, this is a creepy collage of pictures.
Yeah, third from the end is the one that real freaks me out. This one.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Lordy.
So not for the faint of heart, but I will post the link to that slideshow in our show notes.
Yeah, beautiful. Really cool.
I didn't warn you, Soph. I figured you could handle it.
No, I'm not too creeped out by it. I think it's really cool. Not to be gross, but the texture of these mummies is crazy.
Yeah.
Because it looks like almost very thin. Their skin looks like thin fabric almost that's been stretched over bone. It's very creepy.
Yeah, but anyway, if we ever go to Italy, I need to go here.
Yeah, catch me at this place. Because that's where I'll
Catacombe
be hanging
of
out.
the Cappuccino.
Cappuccino.
No, it wasn't. It's the Catacombe of the Capuchins, but I want to call it the Cappuccini. Cappuccino. I can't talk. It's so fucking hot. I can't talk anymore. Now there's a bead of sweat dripping into my eyeball. It's bad over here.
Yeah, don't like it. But did love this episode.
Yeah, thanks parents for suggesting our topics. Thanks for doing our homework a little bit.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Enjoyed hearing about your special topics.
And to the rest of you, I also hope you enjoyed it.
No. I hope no one else liked it.
This episode is just for our parents, so turn it off if you aren't our parents.
But if you ever want to suggest an episode topic, come over to our Instagram and drop us a line, or our website.
Yeah, you can go over to our website, anythingbonespodcast.squarespace.com. There is a link where you can click Have a Story, and it'll go right to our little inboxes. And also on the website is something fun and new. It's our first episode of bonus content.
Yeah. And let us know if you enjoy the bonus content, and we'll make some more.
Yeah.
And if you have the time, and if you're really liking the bones, please head over to Apple Podcasts and write us a review. We're still an emerging podcast, and we want the podcast papas, daddies, yeah.
Sorry.
To notice us.
No,
yeah.
Cut that out.
I probably won't. But seriously, it does help us get ahead in the algorithm, and it opens up our podcast to more people. So if you have the time, please do. We love you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being here.
Bon voyage. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Anything Bones. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Anything Bones Podcast, or email us at anythingbonespodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to Nick Kruger for our spooky music, and Stephen Vetteroff
At Chubby Scrubby on Twitter.
for our jazzy vocals, and thank you to Camilla Franklin
At Camilla Strader on Instagram.
for our beautiful bony artwork. Please rate, review, and subscribe.
Yes! I love a little balcony on a mausoleum.